Hi, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guest may not represent those of the station or the host. I have a special guest with me today, folks, and I always think my guests are special. They always teach me something, and today is no exception. I have with me today Judith Levy, who was an occupational therapist. She's author and writer of Activities to Do with Your Parent who has Alzheimer's dementia. And Judith was an occupational therapist for over 40 years. And Judith's mom had Alzheimer's, and that's why she wrote her book. And I want to welcome Judith Levy to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Judith.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you so much. I wrote a book. I wrote a book, and it was my way of dealing with my mom's illness, and it was cathartic for me, and I hope it's helpful for anybody who needs to see it. So, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you wrote your book, Judy, and sometimes it takes a incident in our life to write a book, gives us that motivation. So that's what motivated you and inspired you to write your book. And I admire occupational therapists. My son used to go for occupational therapy, and I just think it's amazing the work that occupational therapists do. And did you this might sound like an odd question, but as an occupational therapist, did you feel that you knew what activities to do for your mom, or did you have to learn about activities to do with someone who has Alzheimer's dementia?
Wow, what a question. Okay. I think as an occupational therapist, if I was objective, and if it was somebody else's mother, I might have known what to do with somebody else's mother who had dementia. I think as it got to be personally my problem to deal with caregiving and the issues that my mother faced, all of a sudden I didn't know anything. And things that I thought would work didn't work. And I had to really step back and split myself in half professionally and personally on how I was going to be able to deal with my mom. We were really fortunate. My mother was not in a facility. She was at home with a caregiver, and she had made me promise way back when that make me promise, Judy, you may not put me into a facility. And I answered her, I didn't want to lie, and I said to her, I will do the best I can for as long as I can. And when I can't anymore, then I can't anymore. And that's the promise that I can give you. I didn't want to feel guilty, and it's such a guilty thing. You want to do whatever you can to help somebody, but I didn't want to make a promise that I couldn't keep. So she was fortunate that she could stay at home with a caregiver. And she stayed in her house until she couldn't. But I'm going to backtrack as far as being an OT dealing with my mom. When I wrote the book, I wanted to have the caregiver be able to do an activity with my mother. And I wanted to know if the activity worked. That was the therapist in me. So I wanted to set up an activity, and I wanted to see that somebody else could do it in addition to me, and I wanted to see that it worked. So that's why I wrote the book. And I wanted to have, again, this is the therapist half of me, I wanted to have an assessment form so that you could write down how you set it up. Did it work? Why didn't it? If it didn't work, how did you change it to make it work? And that was really my OT background with an activity assessment on how you would look at something. We had done it in school with training. We had done it for people that had strokes. We wanted to do an activity that might use two arms. We wanted to use an activity that was fine motor coordination, that was standing balance, that increased tolerance for standing. And the same principles, my mind took me into what would I do for someone that had cognitive loss, Alzheimer's or Lewy body or frontotemporal dementia, whatever kind of dementia somebody had. I wanted an activity that worked for them. So that was the precursor to where I came into this. When my mother couldn't, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
When she couldn't live in her house anymore, I still could care for her, but rather than have her in her house, when she didn't know her house was her house, we moved her to an apartment near me with a caregiver so that I could get to her much easier than driving to her house back and forth. So that, and my sister and I, we got a huge number of people together, and in one day we moved her. We had somebody drive her out of the house in the morning to take her shopping and out for breakfast and lunch and a snack. And instead of coming back to the house, she came back to the new apartment that we had set up while she was out. So in one day, we moved her from point A to point B. And she never knew that she wasn't home.
Wow. Judy, you pointed out some valuable information, because I agree with you. I did the same thing with my husband. He wanted me to promise him he did not want to be placed. And I told him that I can't promise you that. I will keep you at home as long as I can, as long as it's safe for you, as long as I'm physically able to do it. And a lot of caregivers make that mistake of promising and then feeling guilty and thinking that they failed their loved one because they couldn't carry through with their promise. And I say it before, and I'm going to say it again, folks. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't. So please don't make that promise to your loved one, whether it's your spouse, partner, parent, whoever it is, because we never know. You yourself as a caregiver might get sick. You may not be able to care for your loved one. You might have to place your loved one. They might need more care than you can possibly give them. Doesn't mean that you failed them. You did not. This is just part of how this disease is. And I'm glad you said that. I used to tell Matt,
okay.
I used to tell Matt, can't promise you that. I told Matt, I can't promise you some way, somehow. I'm going to tell the world about you. And he would say, don't talk about me.
Yeah. It's very hard. But
it is.
It's you have enough guilt as it is without adding to your guilt. So it's a big deal. The one thing that I will mention that has come up just recently dealing with just aging is that I had all of my mother's paperwork on me. It was in my phone. So I had her Medicare information, medical information, doctors, phone, all the medications, everything was in my cell phone, so that I had the information on her in case I needed it. There was one time, though, before I got my act together, that my husband and I were away, and it was snowing in New Jersey, and the governor closed the roads. And while the roads were closed and nobody could go back to where they had come from or whatever, my mother fell and broke her hip. And she had to get taken to the emergency room, to the hospital, to get a hip replacement. She was 97 or 98. Wow. And she needed a hip replacement. You have to. And the person that was watching her while we were away called and said, what should I do? And I said, you have to call an ambulance, and she has to go to the emergency room. And when the paperwork, I called my sister, and I said, you have all the paperwork. I'm not home. I don't have it. And she said, oh, it's in the safe, and it's the weekend, and the bank is closed. So she was no help. So just as in hindsight, make sure to whoever is listening, if you are caring for somebody, that you have copies of their power of attorney, that you have copies of their living will, that you have copies of their medications, that you know who their doctors are, so that if you don't have access to the medical information, should your loved one have to go to the hospital for any reason, you will be prepared with the necessary paperwork.
That's a great idea. And I have heard that, to have it on your phone. And I never
have it on
had thought about that until I heard someone say that. And it's good to reinforce that, because people may not think about that. Oh, I could have it on my phone, and, then I could just email it or show it to someone. And I really appreciate the fact, Judy, that you said that you had to separate yourself from being the OT Judy to being the daughter.
Two different
because
people.
That's yes, and it's so true, because I was a nurse and I had to separate myself, and I had to, my whole, I guess my personality is I want to fix people. I want to make someone better, and there comes to a point in some situations you cannot help someone get better. There is no getting better. And that's a hard pill to swallow. That is. That's very difficult. And and when it's close to you, it's totally different. Totally different. I've interviewed doctors, and when their loved one was in the operating room, then they understood how a family felt waiting.
Right.
So
the thing that was so difficult with dementia is how long it lasts. And you start out with the best intentions, and your family members and other caregivers around you start out with the best of intentions, and their friends do too. And then it's like, well, are they better? Is it over? And it's like not. And I think that the hardest thing is the isolation that comes with being a caregiver. So the biggest thing that you can do as a caregiver really is to take care of yourself. Amen.
Yes. Yes, that's so true. Very true. I agree 100%. And I have a saying, said it before many times on my show, and I'll say it again. And I'm a Jersey girl. Judy's a Jersey girl. And self-care is a matter of life and death. It's a matter of your life and death as a caregiver. Because if you want to enjoy life during caregiving and after, and you have every right to, you need to take care of yourself. And that is true.
Yeah, no, that's number one. And if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of somebody else. So,
absolutely. Yes, I agree, definitely. And, with the holidays coming up, although this will be on after the holidays, but it's still good information. We want things to be perfect, right? We want things to be perfect for our loved one. And the truth is, our loved ones don't care about a perfect Seder, a perfect Easter dinner, whatever holiday you celebrate, or gifts being wrapped nice. What they want is our time and our attention and our love. Those are for free, folks. That's what they want. They don't want you being frazzled, because then they get frazzled. And that's how I feel. That's what I've experienced in my caregiving. And I want to ask you, thank you, ask you, Judy, what kind of activities did you do with your mom, or what can someone do with their loved one who has, I know it depends what
it's
stage they're in.
There's lots of people and lots of people that are brilliant on caregiving that have divided Alzheimer's into different stages. And it didn't matter what stage my mother was in. It was like it didn't matter. So if she was independent, that's one thing. When she started to be more dependent and not making good choices. And I'll give you an example, which before we had live-in help for my mother, she made friends with people in the Yellow Pages. So if somebody had a cartoonish kind of advertisement and she thought it was great looking, she would call them up and invite them over. And one time she met some very lovely people. It was totally inappropriate, but she did meet some lovely people, and at that point we knew that she couldn't be by herself anymore. I mean, when somebody's making inappropriate choices, it's time to think about doing a little bit more things. But in the beginning, when somebody's first starting to have cognitive loss, what you really need to do is get paperwork into place. And that's the biggest thing. If you go with your parent and they're concerned about something happening to them and you go to the doctor's appointment, tell the doctor that you're going to be taking notes or you're going to be recording it so that you can discuss it with the rest of the family, so that when you leave, you can play back what the doctor told you, because I thought I was brilliant and I could remember everything, and I don't remember anything. So sometimes it's, at least for me, it was very helpful to have taken notes and to have somebody else with me in the room so that it wasn't all on me to remember. It's hard to remember in a stressful situation.
Yes,
as somebody got, as my mother, I'll go to be personal, when my mother started to require more structured activities. We started, I put in my book, the first one that I put in is about the alphabet. And there's a thing in the store in New Jersey, I don't know if it's there, you can help me, Betsy, it's called Amazing Savings. And Amazing Savings sold all different kinds of things. And some of the things that they sold were the gel letters of the alphabet. And like they're available. They have things that go on windows that are decal kind of things. You can put them on glass, or they're sticky. They're like sticky gel letters. And I wasn't interested so much in the sticky as the letters of the alphabet. And they came between two sheets of clear plastic acetate. And I cut the letters, which I kept between the two sheets, into squares, so that each letter became individualized and was between two sheets of plastic. So you could slide it across the table. It didn't get dirty, didn't pick it up, it wasn't gooey or whatever. It was just the letters. And what we did is we did the letters of the alphabet. And I put them all in a box and said, Mom, find me the letter A. She found me the letter A, and I said, that's great. Give me a word that begins with the letter A. And she would say apple. And so then we would look in the newspaper for letter A's, and we would circle the letter A's. And that was done in April. Like we did whatever. I did whatever I could to come up with ideas. And then we would put all the letters back into the box alphabetically. And we would sing the alphabet song. And if she didn't know a letter of the alphabet, I would go A, B, C, D, E, F, and she would go G. And I said, okay, find the G, and we would progress. So as much structure as she needed. My husband's comment to me was, it's so juvenile. How can you do that? Isn't that demeaning to do something juvenile? And it wasn't. She knew the alphabet song. She knew the letters of the alphabet. She loved to be with me. So basically, it wasn't the activity as much as it was the attention and the time. And that was what was important. The activity was just a means to communicate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on a completely different one, we played a ball toss. I wanted to play catch with her. So in facilities, they often use balloons, and they fill them with not helium, but light enough so that the balloon is going to go slowly through the air, and it's a big enough color that somebody could catch it. You can play catch. You can bounce the ball to somebody. You can roll the ball to somebody, and you can keep score. So we played basketball with a garbage pail and a ball, and we used to throw it in and keep score, and we would tally, and whoever got the most points won. And she loved beating me. I mean, that was just great. So that was good. As far as a male activity goes, the specific was a male, was I got a call from a woman who was a nurse, and her father was interested in going to the Yankee game. You can't take someone with dementia to a Yankee game. It's so much tumult and so much color and noise and activity. It's overwhelming for somebody that really has dementia. It's just overwhelming. But he loved going to baseball games, so I suggested going to a Little League game. Take a chair, go to a local game, sit down on the side of the field, watch the kids. When you want to go, you get up and you go. And you can still watch baseball, but it can be done on a local, calm way. So there's activities, and then there's adapting the activity to the level that your parent or your loved one is at. So that's
yes. Yes, and you could tailor the activity to where their progression is. You know, a lot of people, you know, like might like to play with Play-Doh or even garden if they like to garden. I heard that's a good activity.
Gardening is a wonderful activity. If you want to work with someone that has dementia and you plan on planting seeds, it's not a great activity. It takes too long for a seed to grow. You're going to be there. It's like that's the end of it. The activity needs to be a beginning, a middle, and an end then, or else some other thing that's short term, because the attention span from day 1 to day 2 may not be there. And so rather than have it be an exercise in being frustrated, you want to have something that's perfect. So if you went to the garden shop and you bought some large-headed flowers like geraniums or marigolds and planted the flower in a window box, each day the activity would be getting dirt and filling the window box and taking the flower and planting it. And then they've got a finished product. The activity was discussing flowers, choosing flowers, going to the garden shop, getting flowers, and then planting them in the box. But it's completed. You're not waiting for the flower to develop. It's there, and it's something to be enjoyed every day. So
right. That's a good point.
Basically, it should be something that's completed. I did do one thing, and I had mentioned this in my book, and because I just made soup the other day, this is an activity. I said, okay, Mom, we're going to make chicken soup. So I made a mistake. I said to her, what goes into chicken soup? And I figured she made her whole life, she made chicken soup, and she says to me, water. And I said, well, that's great. What else should we put in chicken soup? I was just wrong. I was just wrong. I should have taken it as an activity that let's put together the ingredients and had pictures of the ingredients and had her choose the ingredients that she would put into soup. And then we could have gone to the market and bought the things and made soup. But no, I totally blew it when I went to do it. I asked her what went in it, and she couldn't answer me because she didn't remember. And so basically, if you're going to do something with somebody, be prepared to fail and be prepared to go to something else. Not every activity works. So it's
right,
like
and
mess up.
And it's trial and error, you know,
it is trial and error.
Yeah, or like people think, okay, they might like to do this. I mean, some people may do an activity that they may not normally have done prior to dementia, but if, like Matt was not one to sit and do puzzles, he would not do it. So even with dementia, I would not expect him to do a puzzle because he didn't have the patience to sit there to do it before. So you have to work with, you know, what your loved one enjoys. You know, they say music therapy is wonderful. Did you find that with your mom? Music
was great, but it was music from the 1940s. So I got music from the 1940s, and we got a music player with CDs that she could listen and dance to the music that she knew. It's not my music; it's her music. So what was important to her is important. It's not about you anymore. It's really not. So I think that's one of the hardest things too, is it's all them. It's their reality and their world, and you are living to make things easy, not to make things difficult. But activities too, if I don't think of an activity as only being an arts and craft, painting, baseball game activity. An activity could be getting dressed. And if you look to see what the weather is outside, it's, oh my God, Mom, it's cold outside today. You're going to need a sweater. Here's 2 sweaters. Which one would you like to wear? So that she made a choice between 2, and she got to think about the weather in regards to clothing. So that's an activity. You don't have to always do a task as much as just doing part of your daily routine is an activity.
Right. That's true, and that's a very good point. Of it's about the your loved one, because sometimes we might tend to want to put out on our own music, but it's their music that they liked. My dad had dementia, and he loved the music from the 40s, the big bands, right. And my mom, brought the music to his facility, and my father always loved music and to listen to it. And I found with Matt that as he progressed, and he loved Johnny Cash, that I would put Johnny Cash on when I had to shave him, shower him, even feeding him. I'd put on the music that he liked so he would relax. And right. It really made a difference in the outcome.
Absolutely.
And, and to be, I think, Judy, as caregivers, and I know it's hard, folks, because I speak from my own experience, and I've made mistakes. We all make mistakes. There's no perfect caregiver. What works, what doesn't work, but we have to live in their world because they can no longer live in our world. And that's something that's hard to get used to. And the sooner that a caregiver accepts, okay, Mom, Dad, my husband, spouse, partner can't live in my world, I have to live in their world, it makes it easier. Not that you have to like what's going on. Nobody likes it. But when you accept it, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And with, did you find, because I have to ask you this since you're an OT, that breaking down tasks sometimes you have to do. Like sometimes you couldn't, like I couldn't do all of Matt's morning care at once. Brushing his teeth, shaving him, showering, I had to break it down during the course of a day. Did you find that also?
Yes. That's your day. Sometimes the best, somebody said to me once, my father only wears the same clothes every day. I can't get their clothes clean. How can I get their clothes clean? They want to wear the same clothes every day. So what they did, which was brilliant, is she bought 4 sets of the same types of clothing so that every day he wore the same thing, but she could switch out his clothes. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's just, like you hit your head against the wall, you're going to make it so difficult, while they're showering, just go in and get a second set of the exact same thing. It's perfect. So it wasn't an issue. If you don't take a shower every day, it's not an issue. It's not important. So there's certain things that aren't important. You don't brush your teeth. Well, brush your teeth after breakfast. It's not a problem if you do it first thing in the morning. Doesn't matter. What works. There's no sense of time, so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It's just the care of health care is basically the issue. It's just not, my mother was 98. She broke her hip. She still needed a new hip. It's an issue of things that you have to do versus things that you can just let go. So some things just aren't important anymore.
True.
I was thinking of something, but I can't. It's gone.
That's okay. Yeah, that's true. You have to pick and choose your battles, folks, and not that you want to argue. You don't want to argue, and it is difficult. I have to admit, when you're dealing with a loved one with any kind of dementia, you want to try to reason with them, but they can't reason. They lost that ability to do that, and it's hard to understand that. When they start hallucinating, you have to go with it and not,
right.
Argue with them, or they think that something happened and it didn't. Just go with it.
Right.
Go ahead.
I was thinking that when I first got doing this with my mother, she had a beautiful glass dining room table. That was her table, and we set up an activity at the table, and I set up this thing with the letters of the alphabet, and I was so proud of myself for doing such a great job setting it up. And I put it on the table, and I wasn't thinking in terms of the fact that the table was clear. And I would say, so, Mom, get me all the letters of the alphabet that are purple. And she was like looking through for purple, and she goes, oh, look at my shoes. My shoes, they're gorgeous. So she was looking through the table at her feet, and I was looking at the table at the letters. And it didn't occur to me, I would say, for a couple of months until it was like getting hit with a 2x4, what's going on, to put a tablecloth on the table so that she couldn't see through the table and she would pay attention to the activity. So you have to think about what you're doing. And you have to step back a little bit to say, oh, it's not working. Why isn't it working? And you have to know if your parent or your loved one is deaf. Are they deaf in their left ear? Where are you going to sit? Are you going to sit to their left and give an instruction to the left? They can't hear you. Should you sit to their right where they can hear you? Should you sit across from them so that they're looking up? Did their feet reach the floor? Is their sitting balance good? Should they be in a chair with arms? Have you been putting them in a regular push-in chair with no arms and they're not stable? Should you put them in a chair with arms? If they're in a wheelchair, can you wheel the chair up to the table? Do you need to take the wheelchair arms off? So it all gets into, that's the OT part of me, is assessing how the person is sitting and how you're giving instructions. Just basic, can they hear you? Are they hungry? Is there enough light? Is the music on? Is too much tumult going on in the room that you need to cut down all the extraneous stuff that's going on so that it's quiet and they can concentrate? So all of that comes into setting up the activity and dealing with your parent and having a successful time.
Yes, and did you find that's good information, because it is important. Are they comfortable how they're sitting? And their balance, and also some activities might be too overwhelming for someone, and then it may not be overwhelming for another person. So you have to take the individual as to where they're at.
If you have food and you're going to give somebody dinner, and you're setting the food on the table for them, and the plate slides, and they can't control the plate, and you want to just put a sticky placemat or a damp paper towel underneath it to hold the plate in place, or you want to use different color food on a white plate. So let's say that the tablecloth is black and your plate is white and the food is all colors, red, orange, green, whatever color, so that it shows off that you can see it more clearly and it's easier to eat. If it's too much stimulation of 3 types of food on a plate, do it 1 type of food at a time. Nobody says you have to have peas and carrots and meat on the plate at the same time. You could just have peas first, and then have carrots, and then have meat. So you're adapting what it is and how you're doing it to make your result be successful.
That's good suggestions. I even heard of using a red plate.
A red plate, yeah, they're showing that that's really good to use a red plate. But it's hard if you put red food on a red plate.
Right.
You can't necessarily see it. So you need color contrast in addition to just using the red plate. So, and I'm a big believer in sticky food, that part of the meal should have something sticky, so that if you have mashed potatoes and you give peas, the mashed potatoes will hold the peas onto your spoon, so you're not bringing frustration of peas rolling across, the table. And, you don't want to give corn on the cob to someone with dentures. So there's,
Right.
basically looking at their ability to eat and chew and swallow, and their sitting position so they're not choking. And if something is happening to your loved one, that their swallow ability is changing, which can happen with dementia, you want to see about speaking to the doctor and either having thickened food or having them evaluated by a speech therapist to make sure that you're not causing somebody difficulty based on the food choices that you're making.
Yes, because they do tend to have difficulty with chewing and sometimes swallowing. I know near the end with the end with Matt, he was unable to hold his head up.
Right.
And I gave him baby food because at that point he wasn't going to get evaluated by a speech therapist. So I just gave him baby food. But I remember sitting with him one evening, like I was nodding out. It took him like 2 hours to eat a grilled cheese sandwich. And I said, oh, no, he can't do this. He needs to have his food pureed or, had that where he doesn't have to chew. So I realized, sometimes folks, I don't know if you don't want to realize it. It's hard to accept that, or you just are so exhausted that it may not dawn on you that they're having difficulty because of it's the disease and they can't no longer chew and swallow correctly. And these things they do come up. It's part of I call it part of the package of the disease that you're dealing with. But it's, and people, progress differently, and it could come at different stages. Thankfully, in a way, Matt was near the end when that happened. But some people are I call it midstream, or in the middle of their journey, and it happens. But I think it's interesting. And
the comment is, if you know one person with Alzheimer's, you know one person with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
It's all individual, and it's great that you picked up with your husband. Your background helped you with that too.
Yes,
I'm sure.
But yes,
the biggest thing is to ask people, and everybody thinks somehow that they have to do it alone, and pretty much there's a lot of people that are so ready to help that don't reinvent the wheel. There's just so much support out there. There's so many people dealing with this. Ask for help. I think that's one thing that I really learned is that if you want somebody to do something to help you, you have to ask for the help. And you have to specify what it is that you'd like them to do, and you want to give them a start time and an end time so that they know that they're not volunteering to do this on end. They're just coming to give you, let's say, a 2-hour break. If you come at 10 o'clock, could you do this with my loved one? And I'll be back at 12 o'clock, or I'll be back at 11 o'clock. But I just need an hour to go to the bathroom by myself, or I need the time to go to a doctor for me. But you have to ask people, because I think pretty much they're afraid to offer.
Yeah, sometimes people don't know what to do. They don't. And some people don't know about resources and local resources. And I think that's one of the reasons why I do my show, Judy, is because I want people to know there is help out there. There are plenty of resources. And one thing, the pandemic really brought out people coming out on social media, doing free seminars, webinars, and just flooded with information and resources. But I have people on my show that are wonderful resources for people. And that's one of the reasons why I do my show, is to help people know about resources and know that, they're not alone. There is help. I just found out about a local resource. This woman, she's end-of-life doula, aging companion. She's in the next town over. I didn't know about her. I wish I did. Yeah. And so that's why I enjoy doing what I'm doing, because I didn't even know about local resources in my own area. And, when you talk about, to different people and their experiences, a lot of people didn't know about resources that were available, or maybe they weren't available at that time during their loved one's journey.
Yeah, when I was in New Jersey, we worked with the United Way. They put together a consortium of nurses and caregivers and different types of people, different types of services would come together in a meeting for a family support caregiver resource meeting. That was through the United Way. And I know that churches offer programs, and I know that the Alzheimer Association offers programs, and that if you're even go online, I have a cleaning fellow out here who went to visit his father in Peru because his father is living there alone, and now all of a sudden he needs more help. So I was Googling long-term care assistance in Lima, Peru for my care with the cleaning guy's father. So, there's things everywhere. So use the internet, too, is really a helpful tool. So there's a lot out there.
Yes, there is. Well, Judith, I loved having you on my show, and I want to thank you for writing your book and coming on and sharing your knowledge. Where can people purchase your book, Activities to Do with Your Parent Who Has Alzheimer's Dementia?
The book is available on Amazon, and it's available as a paperback, and it's available as Kindle, and it's available in something called Kindle Unlimited, which I really don't understand because I don't have it. But you can read by the page if you want to do that, and they somehow keep track of what you're doing. But I know it's available on Barnes & Noble online, and it's available on Amazon, and it's printed on Amazon on demand. So it's not like it's a library that stocks it. If you want it, they will print it for you. So.
And I highly recommend people to purchase the book. Sometimes we just need help, knowing what activities to do. And I think occupational therapist is the way to go. You definitely know what activities work and suggestions. And is there a way people can get in touch with you via social media? Activities.
So to contact me if you have a question and I get back to people, I really do. It's dementiaactivities@gmail.com. And dementia activities, there's two A's stuck in the middle. DEMENTIAACTIVITIES@gmail.com. And the book is on Facebook. I'm not, but the book is, and you can get to me at that Gmail address.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Judith. That's Judith Levy with us today on Chatting with Betsy. It's so nice talking to you. And thanks for connecting with me. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
I believe it was LinkedIn we met. So thank you. Yes.
I wish you a happy holiday.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much. And I just want to dedicate the show in honor of Judith's mom. And may your mom's memory always be a blessing to you and to her loved ones.
And
you're
to
welcome.
You for Matt. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Folks,
bye.
Bye-bye. The information about Judith Levy will be in the blog that Jeannie White, who's station manager, writes. So please read the blog. And thank you, Jeannie, for producing the show. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And thank you for listening. I appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to Chatting with Betsy, it is for free on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, and YouTube, just to name a few. And I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and share the show with your friends and family, because it is my mission and vision to help as many people as possible. And the only way I could do that is with help. And when you do that, you are helping me honor my husband Matt's memory. And so I appreciate it because, we don't know about resources until we need them. And I'm here to help you. I have wonderful guests on who are wonderful resources. I talk about a variety of topics. I have guests from all walks of life. And I think I have phenomenal guests, if I have to toot my own horn. And I just would like for you to subscribe, listen to the show, and share it, because you never know who you're helping. We think we're all alone in how we feel, but we're not. You're not alone, and I want you to know you're not alone. And if you're a caregiver, and even if you're not a caregiver, and if you're looking for a support group, I have one on Facebook, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement, and you're welcome to join. And if you want to follow me, take a glimpse into my personal life, you can find me on Facebook at Betsy, Betsy, the initial E, Wurzel, Wurzel. You could take a look at my life, meet my son Josh, and you can see pictures of Matt. And I mostly post about Alzheimer's. I've very much been advocating about Alzheimer's awareness and other dementias, and since I've been on Facebook for, it'll be 9 years already, 2014. Yeah. So time goes by fast. And that's it for today, folks. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright, because if we all did that, it would be a much kinder, brighter world. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Be safe, be careful till we chat again. Bye-bye now.